Hello and welcome back. If you see me here in the studio with no instruments, that can only mean one thing: a Kellerman blog. This is where I reread and discuss the murder mysteries by author Jonathan Kellerman. I'm hoping to discuss them with other people that are as passionate about them as I am. There are things that I like, things that I don't like, things that bother me. Let's get into it. Today's book is Night Moves. And these videos are intended to be for people who have read the books, but if you haven't, there might be some spoilers ahead, and here is a synopsis. I'm not going to do an outtake. I caught it, and I fixed it. So, our main characters are psychologist Dr. Alex Delaware and LAP detective Milo Sturgis, and they work together to solve murders. In this book, Milo is called to the scene of a crime. A man is found dead in the den of a family that has no affiliation with him. Nobody knows who this man is, and nobody knows how he ended up in their den. They were all away at dinner. When they come back, there's a dead body in their den. And I believe his hands were cut off, so they can't identify him with fingerprints. And there was, I can't remember all exactly how he was mutilated, but he was definitely killed in such a way that made him very difficult to identify. So identifying him was part of the mystery solving. As it often is, but in this case it was a lot more involved and a lot more difficult than some others. And what's the affiliation with this family? And, why was he killed? And then along the way, as is often the case with these books, some other affiliated characters end up dead, and you have to tie all the pieces together. That's as much as I'm going to tell you. That's enough spoilers as it is. So let's get into my notes. Here's what I said. This era of books is interesting to me. Normally, I think one of the greatest strengths of the writing is the imagery, and I have very clear mental images of every scene. My criticisms are usually with plot devices or details. But in this book, and the couple after it, I have trouble creating mental pictures. I'm not sure why. The vivid images that form in my brain when reading just don't come together clear, and the books end up being more forgettable. I'll be interested to see if this continues with the new books as Kellerman continues writing. And actually, let me stop and think about that, because I just read his new book, City of the Dead. I don't think it's as forgettable. The imagery is as forgettable as like this book. This is probably the worst one for me in terms of like the whole. There's no imagery that sticks. City of the Dead. It's not as clear image-wise as a lot of the earlier books, but I don't think it's as far as this one is. Okay, let's get into the notes. Once again, Milo's office was supposedly a punishment, which was not something established in the books when it happened. So for those who haven't been following along the whole way, Milo was a detective. He was a D2, D3. He got promoted throughout the books, and he worked out of the homicide room. And then in the murder book, that's the name of the book, the murder book, he made a deal with the police chief who was about to retire that he would get promoted to lieutenant but get to keep working cases. He'd be a lieutenant detective, and he'd get his own private office. And his private office ended up being basically a closet. It was very small. And in later books, Kellerman kind of reimagines that as, this was a punishment for him, putting him in a small office. But when the deal was made, and for the first couple books afterwards, nothing was said about it being a punishment. So it really bothers me when that comes up, because if that was meant to be a punishment, why not say it right away? I feel like it's something that Kellerman kind of reimagined as the writing continued, but it doesn't hold true to the book at the time that it was written. So that bothers me when I see it. There's a chapter, or it might not be a whole chapter, but there's a section of the book with a woman and a piano. I skip it. It's too cringy for me. I just turn the pages past it. Nope, I can't do it. I believe it's the caretaker. Someone references the hoodies. And the term bothered me because it almost sounded like it was intended to be a racist term. And maybe it's supposed to be racist, and we're supposed to think he is a racist, and it's supposed to bother us. Or maybe it's not meant to be racist, and it is. Or maybe not. Maybe it's something else. But the first thing I think about when somebody says hoodies is this, the Trayvon Martin and the stereotypes with black males wearing hoodies. And so I feel like it's either intended to be a racist term, but it's not. Or it's not, but it's coming across racist. Speaking of which, as someone with ties to Chicago, the comments about the South Side are a little insulting. In the book, a character, and then Alex agrees, says that basically the South Side of Chicago is all academics and gangsters. And no, that's not in any way true. And the south side of Chicago is not necessarily even the worst side of Chicago at this point. What brief tangent. So the bad neighborhoods in Chicago used to be the projects, because anytime you put that many people, especially poor people with needs that aren't being met, in a small space, and it's the whole thing about when you put rats in a condensed space and they end up hurting each other. It's human nature, it's animal nature, really. Whenever you put people in a small space, things get worse. And so the Chicago projects used to be where the dangerous stuff happened. Cabrini Green, which I believe is featured in the movie Candyman. If you watch Candyman, that's what I remember Cabrini Green looking like. So, to me, that's a pretty authentic representation. Robert Taylor homes, I can't remember the names of the other one. Those are the two that I was familiar with. And when they tore down the projects, the people who lived in them scattered to the south side, the west side. I think the south side was originally the bad side. After everybody that left the projects went to the south side. Then they cleaned up the south side, and everybody on the south side went to the west side. Then they cleaned up the west side, and everybody from the west side went to the suburbs. That's the same way it is. Whenever you try to move the quote unquote bad people out, they go somewhere else. They don't disappear. That's why instead of just kicking them out, you have to give them resources so that they don't need to turn to crime and other things that are causing problems to survive. You give them resources so that they can survive in ways that aren't harmful, and then you don't have to kick them out of one neighborhood to the other. Anyhow, we don't need to get any further into that. But yes, I didn't care for the comments about Chicago. If you guys follow my the Rex Youth Center Theater Church blog, you know that I have deep ties to the west and south sides of Chicago. I Will Daddy seems very fake and clumsy. I know it's explained as the first time she said it, but it just seems like a cheap plot device. I think that could have been handled better by the writer, by Kellerman, not by the character. And if you've read the book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Felice asks Alex to be present at the questioning. And again, this is a trope in these books that really bothers me, is that everybody wants Alex. Oh, he's such the best psychologist. Everybody wants him to be there. Everybody wants to hire him. All the girls want to fuck him. He's just, oh, Alex, he's so great, and it gets a little old. Like, really? Like, we're supposed to believe everybody thinks he's this great, and in this case, somebody who is involved with the suspect thinks that Alex is so amazing that he just has to be there. He'll make the interrogation better. Please, just have him there. It's in every book, Oh, psychologist, great. We want him. Oh, that psychologist, that's the best one. We want him there. It just gets old. Alex, obviously he's great because I like the character. I read the books. I love Alex. I think he's amazing, but I think that Kellerman writes him as too good to be true. And the other characters see him as too good to be true. And it bothers me. Let me finish my note, because a lot of that wasn't writing. Again, this is part of the trope that everyone wants Alex. Everyone always asks Alex to be there, which quickly eliminates a civilian shouldn't be present issue every time. Even the criminal's lawyers ask him to be present. I know it's a device so that he can always be there in the book, so there's not things, well, sorry, this is for lawyers and police only. No, Alex is okay. Even the criminal asked for him so that we, the reader, can be there. I know it's a device, and it's probably, the easiest way to make that happen, but it seems like the easiest way to make that happen. And Alex, attorneys, Milo, other people will often say psychological sensitivity is called for. That's the mechanism that they use to say Alex should be there. And it's in so many books, and it gets old so quickly. Please, no more If anybody from the publisher, the editor is watching, somebody who knows Kellerman, no more psychological sensitivity is called for. Just eliminate that phrase from the books entirely. Okay, last note. Yet another piano playing victim. There's a lot of victims that play piano. And I wonder why that is. We know Kellerman is a musician, Alex is a musician, both of them play guitar. I'm sure they can both bang out something on piano, but I wonder why we have a lot of guitar playing murderers and a lot of piano playing victims, and I wonder why that is. As somebody who plays guitar and piano, more so organ than piano, but I play a little bit of acoustic piano and Fender Rhodes. I don't know how to feel about that. Next up is The Wedding Guest, which is dark but interesting, and I think a wholly new concept for Kellerman, so we're going to talk about that one next. Thanks for watching.